Welcome to the show, everybody. This is our second live show for this year, just getting into the swing of things. If we haven't met, my name's Rad Burmeister. I'm one of the co-founders of Unity Gym, and I'm joined right there by my brother Yanni, the other co-founder of Unity Gym. And today's show is sponsored by VPA Supplements. We're going to tell you why, but this show is all about the best supplements, the best quality supplements, the ones that we take, the ones that we believe in, and why we take them, and why we think you should too if you want to take supplements. Because we get asked the questions a lot by our members inside of our UMS coaching app. Which supplements should I take? What should I do? So that's what this show's all about. And before we get into this, I want to just give you guys a little bit of a backstory as to why we're talking about VPA supplements. And we've recently been approached by many companies around the world asking us to, promote their products, talk about their products, review their products, things like that. You might have seen some of the massage gun reviews that I've done recently. And Yanni and I are very big on not promoting anything that we don't believe in ourselves, that we don't use ourselves. And so when I was approached recently by a supplement company that I didn't really know about over in America, and I looked into them, it's not something that I wanted to promote. So I reached out to VPA, and the reason why I reached out to VPA is because about 4 or 5 years ago, Yanni said to me, Rad, I want you to get some really good Australian whey protein that we can sell at the gym. Yanni was really unhappy with the quality of the whey protein that we were selling, and he's going to tell you why quality matters so much. And it was a really big deal for Yanni, and he said, I want you to source some really high quality Australian whey. And I looked around, and I found some good ones, but they all had about 23 or 24 grams of protein per 30 gram serve. And when I found VPA is Australian made. It uses Australian grass-fed whey, and Yanni's going to tell you why that's so important. And it has 27 grams per 30 gram serve, 27 grams of protein per 30 gram serve, which is much higher than anything else I found, which means not only does it have more protein in it, but it has less of everything else. So recently I reached out to VPA. I asked them if they wanted to create a partnership, and they were very excited to. And so this is our first official partnership with another company. It's a really exciting time for us because it's something that we really believe in. And today we wanted to introduce that to you. We wanted you guys to know that why coming up in the future, you're going to see us doing stories where we're going to be talking about VPA. We're going to be talking about the supplements that we use. And we really want to be clear and upfront with you guys as to why we're doing this and why we're going in this direction. And it's very exciting for me because we honestly use this stuff ourselves. So yeah, there you go. How are you feeling about it all, Yanni?
Mate, I'm stoked because I was spending a fortune. Now I get it for free. I got a cupboard stacked full of VPA products already, and also we've been recommending their products for many years to our clients, and now we get a small percentage when our members and clients purchase from them, and our members and clients get 10% discount on top of that. So it's just a win-win-win, really. It's a win for VPA, it's a win for you and me and our team, and it's a win for our clients and tribe and any of our followers and subscribers here who use our affiliate link. So it's awesome. And you know,
the link's in the description of this video, obviously. So there's a link there where you can get a 10% discount if you use the code that we have provided for you. And yeah, check that out.
They got some great products. And one of the cool things that I've really noticed with VPA is that they don't seem to sell anything that is crap. You know, I'm going to talk about a number of topics today. One of the more important topics that I'm going to talk about is, you know, why it's important to use high quality single-use supplements. Single ingredient supplements, because you'll find that very often the more expensive supplements that are a mix of a whole bunch of different stuff, the quantity that you actually get in the important ingredients, like creatine monohydrate is one of the most common, is way too low. And so what you end up doing is paying an enormous amount of money for something that is giving you less than optimal dosage for your needs. And so I'm a really big proponent of single ingredient supplements, like the creatine monohydrate that VPA sell, and I'll explain more about that in a sec. But first of all, before we get really stuck into it here, I want to make it really, really clear. And I really, really love the way Andrew Huberman on the Huberman Lab podcast frames this. I think it's a very, very easy to understand formula. He describes what I will call a hierarchy of priority when you're considering to build a nutrition supplement protocol. I'll link, I think Rad's going to link the podcast I'm talking about in the description of this video so you guys can go and watch it.
Have.
Great. It's at the very start of the podcast. So, you know, and it's a really, really great podcast. So I reckon you should listen to all of it. But he points out that there are 4 stages to supplement intervention or health, optimizing health. And we're talking about optimizing health, not just for physical performance, but for mental performance and happiness, vitality, and general health, you know, hormonal health, all sorts of different things. And the way he sort of frames it, which I wholeheartedly agree, and every scientist that I've ever spoken to that has a lot of skin in the game and knows a lot more about this sort of thing than myself, and that includes top-level cardiologists, a PhD sports exercise scientist, PhD nutrition scientists, they all will say that a health protocol needs to start with your lifestyle habits and behaviors. And that's, you know, essentially talking about prioritization of really healthy levels of exercise. And healthy levels of exercise, you've got 2 ends of that spectrum, and we want to find something in the middle. You've got way too much exercise, which I would call an elite level athlete. You know, they actually sacrifice their health in most cases to focus on performance, and that's not healthy. But then you've got way too little sedentary lifestyle, way too little exercise or movement, and we want to find somewhere in the middle. That's what I refer to as a healthy dose of exercise or a healthy amount of exercise, and it needs to be balanced. It needs to, you don't want to specialize in anything too specific. It needs to be strength, stimulus, so that we're maintaining healthy muscle mass. Needs to be flexibility stimulus, so we maintain our supple mobility, and it needs to be cardiovascular stimulus, so that we're maintaining our cardiovascular system and heart health and all of the physiology benefits that come with that. So what we want to make sure is that the number one thing that we prioritize first is those lifestyle practices, habits, and behaviors. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not getting the right dose of exercise, and if you're not getting the right sort of, you know, I guess like sun exposure is another really good example. You know, you should be getting sun exposure in the morning in the first few hours after you rise to recharge and ignite your metabolic systems in the body. If you're not, that's really, really bad. You should not be getting exposure to bright light after 10 o'clock at night. That's really bad for your health as well, you know, and if you're doing it, you shouldn't be doing it regularly. Shift workers, obviously, they're going to struggle with that. But these are things that you really need to prioritize first before any supplement regime, because those things are going to give you 10x the results that any supplement regime will give you. And then second on that hierarchy is nutrition and diet optimization. If you're not eating the right food, if you're not getting lots of vitamins and minerals through your nutrition, if you're not meeting your daily protein requirements, if you're in a calorie surplus too much and you're overweight, then no nutrition supplementation regime is going to fix your health. And quite frankly, I'd go as far as to say that it's almost a waste of time. If you're trying to take vitamins to supplement the fact that you've got a terrible diet, or if you're trying to just take, like, no one can survive alone on just nutrition supplementation. You might survive for a little while, but it's not a healthy way to live, you know. And then third in that hierarchy is where nutrition supplementation, vitamins and minerals come into play, and protein supplements and branched chain amino acids and things like that. And then last on the list is pharmaceutical drugs, you know, and there are a place for pharmaceutical drugs. Like, there is certain times in my life where I heavily rely on antidepressants, and I know many cases of people that just would not survive well if they didn't have access to those sorts of protocols. Of course, need to be prescribed by a doctor, someone who's qualified to do so. And I'm not suggesting that everyone should go out and get a drug protocol, but that's last on the list. You need to make sure that those other 3 boxes are ticked first. And if you still require it, then go and see a doctor, and if that's what you need, but my father is a type 2 diabetic and has a number of health issues. He probably wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for his drug protocol. And so I just want to make sure that people don't think that we're like adverse to or against going to the doctor and asking for help if you need it, because there are some people that will just simply need it. That said, if you get the first 3 right, lifestyle, nutrition and diet, and a good supplement regime, then the likelihood of you needing that 4th level of intervention is less, I believe. If you're exercising lots, you probably are not going to need a statin or a drug like that. And same for antidepressants. If most people exercise, nutrition, lots of sleep, healthy practices are going to not need antidepressants, So just take that into consideration before we dive into our nutrition supplement regime. And with that said, I guess we can continue, right?
Yeah, for sure. Look, I'm really going to guide some questions for Yanni because this is Yanni's jam. Yanni's got much more experience than I do with traditional strength and conditioning, and also with supplements and nutrition. For me, I'm a lot more passionate about flexibility and calisthenics and movement style training. And that's the beauty of the UMS. You have both of us working on the beast. But so I'm really just going to be sort of asking questions for Yanni. So Yanni, common questions that we get, and one of the things that motivated me to do this show today is what supplements should I take? Some of our tribe members have asked me recently. Actually, you know what? Let's start real simple. The recent question that was asked by Laurie was, what type of protein powder should I take? Where should I get my protein from? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why we recommend VPA Australian grass-fed protein as opposed to American proteins or European or whatever.
French or Asian. Yeah. Okay. So the standards vary greatly in how cattle are raised and fed and wormed, and given steroids and hormones and antibiotics around the world. Those protocols vary quite a lot. And it comes down to one of the main factors is sun exposure. If the cattle don't get good sun exposure, then their bodies aren't producing good vitamin D, just like us, and then they can become quite sick, and so they need to be given drugs to keep them alive long enough so that they can produce the byproducts that we turn into food and food sources and protein sources. And another variable is how they're raised, conditions that they're raised in. So are they inside in silos or pens, or are they outside allowed to roam around and eat the grass as nature intended? Because that too makes you can imagine if you're standing in your own feces all day, eating moldy grain, then you're going to produce a very different outcome in your body's physiology over a lifetime. And remember, the cows don't cycle bad periods of life like we do. If we have a really tough year due to COVID or something, that's what they get all their life. They get put into a silo or a pen in the dark with artificial light and fed moldy grain, that is really deficient in natural minerals. So then they need to be fed through different medications and things to keep them alive and arguably healthy somewhat, so that they stay alive long enough that we can harvest the food from them. And so what ends up happening with our protein is that our protein supplements is that those chemicals that the cows are that are put into the cows, but also that the cows' bodies naturally produce when they're in a state of dishealth or poor health, end up in the protein at the end, in the end product, and then we consume it, and it ends up in us. And now, I'm not the right person to argue whether that's really producing bad health, but what we do know is that it can sort of mess up your omega-3 to omega-6 balance if you're eating poor quality or consuming poor quality animal products. You know, the fatty acids that we're consuming from these products can become toxic or produce ill health outcomes in humans. And we just want to make sure that what we're putting in our body is contributing to our health, because that's what we think it's doing. And in some cases, it may not be. And that also goes for vegan proteins, plant-based proteins. You know, there's a lot of heavy trace metals that are found in a lot of plant-based proteins. So you want to make sure that you're getting, the first box is ticked, that it's a high quality protein source. And what we've found through our research and experience is that there's only really two places in the world that seem to be producing really high quality whey, and that is in New Zealand and or Australia. So we highly recommend that because the standards here are very high, and it's much easier. There's a lot more protein being produced in New Zealand. I think it's one of the only places in the world where they farm the cattle to produce whey. Everywhere else in the world, it's a byproduct. You know, they separate the curds and whey when they're producing milk and cheese and things like that. And so the standards are very low. So that's why we want to. Sorry, go on. Absolutely. Look, listen, you know, a lot of people talk about the fact that they want to detoxify. You know, they want to do a detox, and it's a very buzzword. You know, detox. I've even used it in our marketing because it just simply sells. People love buying detoxes. You know, but the reality is that the body is constantly detoxing in a state of detox. That's what your liver is doing for you. It produces enzymes and different chemicals that are breaking down things that the body, compounds that the body does not need or want, and then getting rid of it, excreting it, you know. And there are a number of foods that upregulate the detoxification process that the liver will produce for you. And one of them is whey protein. And for that reason, whey protein, if it's of a high quality, like a New Zealand or an Australian whey, should be considered a superfood. It is as good for you as blueberries or any of, you know, in for different reasons. And, you know, we had a funny conversation once recently, and I think this is something that everyone should take into consideration. Getting your daily, one of the things I want to talk about here is, you know, today we want to help you design a supplement protocol to support your maximum mental, physical health and performance, depending on a couple of key factors. You know, first of all, we have to take into consideration your specific needs. Because if you suffer severe bipolar, then chances are you'll need the fourth intervention. You know, that people's specific needs change depending on what your nutrition's like. If you're eating an enormous amount of meat products, like there's a new Lion diet that literally limits you to red meat and salt. That's all you can eat. If you're on the Lion diet, you probably don't need to supplement protein. You know. nutrition, based on your nutrition, currently what you're eating, obviously, lifestyle, and of course your finances. Like some of the supplements we're going to talk about today, the gain you get that it yields, if you are on a really tight budget, it's just not going to be worth it. There's just no point spending that money. You may as well focus on just getting more sleep. That'll like save you a crap of money and probably give you better results. That said, Rad said to me recently, I can't afford to be on whey protein at the moment. And I said, how are you getting your protein? He said, I have a smoothie in the morning or after training with 6 eggs. And I laughed and said, are you kidding me? It's $2 a serve for a good quality VPA protein. Works out to be about $2.40 a serve. 6 eggs is far more expensive than that. And you're probably getting a better source of protein with less fat. Arguably, Rad sort of rebutted that argument with, I need the calories from the eggs, which, makes sense, but it's an expensive way to get your calories. And considering that when you consume raw eggs, any raw protein that hasn't been at least processed a little bit is very hard for the body to digest and break down.
Yeah, the bioavailability of protein is huge. And I realized that I was on mute before, guys. So thanks for pointing that out to me. My incredible knowledge bomb has been missed, though. I can't remember what it was I said.
How long were you on mute for?
Just for that one tiny bit that I said before.
Okay.
Because the last time we went live, every time I was typing anything, I could hear this on the live stream. So I've learned to mute myself. Anyway, yeah, that is a really important point, because the bioavailability of protein is really relevant. And if you're unless you chew your foods to an absolute mash, it's hard to extract all the protein out of it. And for me, I'm on a mission to build as much muscle as I possibly can. Because I don't take any performance enhancing drugs, it's not easy for somebody my age at age 44, and I know that I'm on the decline of where my body is naturally going to lose muscle from this point. So I'm just trying to build as much as I possibly can. In all my workouts, I'm doing higher volume and I'm eating. And yeah, being able to have a good protein supplement where it's just readily bioavailable is really relevant for that, because it's protein that builds the muscles, the protein and amino acids.
Yeah, and look, what a lot of people have been misled by idiots like the Liver King is that they, there's this notion that eating your meat raw is better than consuming it cooked. Now, the only time that meat is not recommended consumed is if you scorch it and burn it, and you get that black carcinogenic layer on the outside. But as long as you cut that off and don't eat it, then it's fine. And, one person who I really advise people follow if they want to learn more about muscle protein synthesis is Dr. Layne Norton. He is an absolute weapon and gun when it comes to this sort of thing. And he's a huge proponent of, processing, at least mechanically processing your food. So that means, cooking it is a form of mechanical processing, not chemical processing, not adding all sorts of crap that turns it into highly processed food, but mechanically processing it. You either blend it or you chop it up or you lightly cook it. I'm not talking about, sitting on a barbecue and charcoaling your steak before you eat it, but cooked protein, as far as I know, is far more bioavailable for the body than raw protein. So, the concept of people saying, "Oh, I don't want to eat whey," or I use a plant-based protein, and I'll tell you why in a sec, because it's processed food, is laughable. It's just a misunderstanding of how our body.
You've said a lot of things that you're going to talk about. You've got 5 minutes left on this call, so we're not going to be talking about everything today. So whatever points you want to make now, we're going to.
Let's dive into what supplements we recommend.
Okay, go for it.
Because that's nice and easy. We've framed up why high quality is important. So the supplements
you've got a minute for each supplement.
Well, I don't take that many different supplements.
Yeah.
What I recommend for every single person to create a foundation for their health is a multivitamin, And a multivitamin is something that will just help bridge the gap. I also recommend a omega-3, like a fish oil or a krill oil, and vitamin D supplements. So those are the vitamins and minerals that I highly recommend. And also magnesium. Those come directly from Dr. Ross Walker, who's arguably one of the most prolific cardiovascular heart surgeons in Australia, practicing cardiologist. And he's got a lot of skin in the game in the research as well. For performance, I'm a big, big proponent of whey protein, caffeine, and creatine. Those are the three that I think create the base for a high-performing body. And those are the most affordable. You're not going to spend a lot of money on caffeine, creatine, or whey protein. If you're very sensitive to dairy, like myself, I get acne or pimples very, very easily. And I tend to do so after consuming any sort of dairy. Then a good premium plant-based protein is what I use and recommend. And that's totally fine. But in that case, you will need to substitute leucine, which is the branched chain amino acid that seems to be the key ingredient in muscle protein synthesis. In most whey proteins, it's sufficient amounts, but in plant-based proteins, it's not. And if you want to then go to the next step, the next level, then supplementing, this is the L-leucine, by the way. It tastes like crap. Make sure you mix it into your smoothie because you don't want to take it on your own. If you want to go a little bit further, and this comes down to what your needs are, your nutrition needs, I am a big proponent of time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting. And so if you're an intermittent fasting proponent and you have less food throughout the day, then you may need to substitute branched chain amino acids throughout the day. And this is a really great supplement that VPA have that I use. And if I go for a really long fast and during that fast I do a couple of training sessions, then I will consume some BCAAs during my training session or shortly after it. It will break your fast. These are ingredients in there that the body is not necessarily producing naturally, xenobiotics. So they're going to stimulate metabolic function and the gut microbiome enzymes and things like that. So it's going to break your fast, but they're fantastic. And then the last one that I highly recommend considering if you want to go to that level and you've got the budget, because the gain you get from these is, not sufficient for someone who's on a really tight budget, is L-glutamine for general gut health, which also is proven to help with food cravings a little bit and alcohol cravings and things like that. Supplementing a little bit of L-glutamine, it can be depleted when you're exercising a lot. It's naturally produced in the body, but if you're exercising a lot, you can deplete it. And then the other one is carnitine, L-carnitine, and that is going to help mobilize fat in the body, because remember, there are two stages to metabolizing fat. You've got to mobilize it and then you've got to metabolize it. And they're different signal pathways from the neurons that connect to the adipose tissue. And L-carnitine will help with that process. And that's pretty much it. That's my regime. Other than that, I do add lots of different fiber to my shakes every day. We can talk about that on another day, but that's another really important lesson that I've learned. There is a very, very good link and a plethora of good research indicating that, the more fiber we get throughout the day, the longer we live. So, and it's also a prebiotic for the gut microbiome. And that's something that I'd like to talk about on another podcast, the gut microbiome and what we can do to support it, because that's going to support a healthy immune system and a high functioning body. But we'll talk about that on a later date. Look at that, Rad. I've finished and wrapped it up. Magnesium. Well, magnesium is one of those great supplements that'll just give you diarrhea if you take too much of it.
God damn it, I was muted again. So that was Vinny's question, taking 500 milligrams of magnesium in the morning and 500 milligrams of magnesium at night. And you just heard Yanni's answer there, Vinny. So sorry about that. I'm going to have to get
I
used
would
to
just not mute yourself, mate. It's
you
not.
just hear this duck, 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 duck,
Who
duck when
cares?
you're.
Who
Yeah.
cares? People can handle it.
No.
Yeah, Vinny, magnesium is one of those supplements that will just give you a little bit of the runs if you take too much of it, and you'll know straight away. And I think that's pretty much it. Is there any other?
No, that's
Is
it.
there
That's
too much magnesium? Okay, yeah. Hey
yeah,
guys.
that's all the questions. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And anybody that watches this stream late after it's been published and after we've ended it, any questions that you have, put them in the comments, and we endeavour to go live every week on.
Hey.
This is Friday in Australia. I think it's Thursday everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, we're going to be going live every Friday from now on. Smash the like button, Tribe, and if you like, if you got
please
value
do.
out of this, please subscribe to the channel. Rad's the guy that's meant to be saying that, but he forgot. And we appreciate every one of you. If you want us to talk about a topic, then throw it in the comments. We're going to read every single one of the comments and give us some good questions to answer.
Yeah, these shows are really anybody that's been following
They're all
us
for you.
Anybody, well, what I was going to say is that anybody that's been following us for a while, you will have noticed that in the last month, we have dramatically increased the amount of content that we're putting out. So we do one short a day and then one long form piece of content a week. And we're going to keep that going all year round. And the idea of these shows is so that we can get better feedback and better input from you guys as to what you want to see. And when we hear what you want to see, we will make it. So let us know.
And also, Rad's team is really good at summarizing key points of insight. So if you guys ask a good question and we answer it, it's likely going to be cut down into a short form piece, so you don't have to watch a whole podcast or listen to a whole podcast. And of course, this will be up and live on the Sound of Movement podcast in a few hours.
Yep. Awesome, Tribe. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you
just
soon.
Quickly, if you have listened on the Sound of Movement podcast, please give us a 5-star review. It helps grow the audience.